AI is, from my perspective, and I'm not the only one who believes in that, the key technology to master our sustainability transformation.
Welcome to a brand new episode of our podcast, Human in AI, Minds, Machine, and a Gradient Descent.
Thanks for tuning in to our geeky podcast, where we discuss the fascinating field of AI and machine learning, corporate craziness, passion for technology, and the role of humans. I'm Aubrey, joined by Uli, and we are excited about today's guest and today's topic.
Super excited. I've been waiting on this. Actually, we've been waiting this for a bit of a while. We tried to tease, we tried to ask, we somehow got him into the room because we talked a lot in the show about what AI can do. But today we're asking different questions. What does AI need to do and what does it cost to do it?
Because here's the thing that doesn't really get said enough. AI is not for free, and not financially free, and definitely not environmentally. Data centers are already consuming roughly 1% to 2% of global electricity, and that number is climbing fast.
And at the same time, this is where it gets really juicy and interesting. AI might be also one of our most powerful tools for fighting climate change, optimizing energy grids, reducing material waste, tracking carbons across the entire supply chain. So the same technology that creates maybe certain kinds of challenges to us could be also part of the solution.
Exactly. And the question we're sitting with today is, how do you actually hold that tension? How do you build something powerful and responsible at the same time? And who's actually doing that work inside of some of the world's largest companies?
Ooh, I guess we know that company, right? And that's exactly why we wanted to find someone who isn't just thinking about this, but who is actually really making it happen. Our guest today is living this challenge from the inside, the data foundation, the architecture, the decisions that make sustainable thinking actually possible at scale.
And what I love about this conversation is where it ends up taking us. Because it turns out that the most urgent sustainability question right now isn't about policy or engineering. It's about data. And our guest is going to show us exactly why.
It's my genuine pleasure to welcome Jochen Gross to the podcast. He leads data strategy and architecture within the sustainability team at Siemens. Jochen, welcome to the show. Super cool to have you.
Yeah, thanks, Uli. Thanks, Arbery, for the invitation. Great to having me and to be here today.
So, Jochen, we've been together actually in a department private, right? We previously, right? And we talked about AI and data for quite some years actually already. And so it's super cool now to continue and have this conversation a bit on a new strategic plane actually, right?
A full circle moment, Uli.
A full circular moment, right? And let's rewind a little bit maybe, right? Because honestly, when most people think sustainability department, they picture environmental, maybe scientists, policy experts, and maybe a few engineers, but don't picture what is the role of data, what is data strategist. So how did you end up leading data strategy and architecture inside of sustainability function, and what does that even mean day to day?
Yeah, and first of all, indeed, I guess it's still quite unusual for sustainability departments having dedicated functions dealing with data. Mm-hmm. So during my whole career, and Uli, you mentioned that, we had a joint history also within Siemens for quite some years. I have a data and AI background. I'm not a sustainability expert, neither per education nor by professional career. In fact, I'm not even, I would say, a technology or AI enthusiast per se. I started initially studying social sciences. And the reason behind is that I have been always passionate about understanding social behavior, understanding how societies work and how to also progress or how to drive societal progress. And in my time in academia, I learned very fast that to gain insights, the only chance you have is empirical science. So you need data and you need to apply statistics to derive insights out of that. That's how I came into data. So for me, always data and AI statistics is a means for a bigger purpose. And then that's where I started in my professional career, always in data and AI. And now since 1.5 years, I'm in the sustainability department, and there it's where it's really coming together. Yeah, that's purpose-driven, doing data for sustainability.
Is that also when your data team emerged 1.5 years ago?
Yes.
Yeah.
We started that journey roughly 1.5 years ago.
And how do you feel like sustainability as a discipline has actually changed? So why was there suddenly a need to have a data team like dedicated to really like dive deeper into like away maybe from like a more like value driven conversation towards maybe something more, let's say, quantitative?
So first, I would clearly say sustainability is still deeply rooted in values. That has not changed. What I think that the real shift is that sustainability has become a strategic lens for companies. So how they operate, invest, and innovate. And so what we need to do is to integrate sustainability into core business decisions. And data and AI are key levers to achieve that ambition. That's why data and AI are coming more and more important also in the area of sustainability. It's because decision making needs to be data and fact-based. And now my team, that's what we've built up over the last 1.5 years, is supporting the provision of the data that is necessary, and B, provides also the analytics and AI expertise then to do something with the data which is meaningful. And just because you asked specifically about the data part, to look a little bit deeper into that. If it comes to sustainability, we need to state that we need a complete new level of data transparency along our whole value chain and across all functions, because sustainability is just everywhere. And whether it's about reducing emissions, becoming more resilient, using resources in a more efficient way, or also meeting regulatory requirements, and I'm pretty sure we will come to that as well, companies need consistent, comparable data from the whole ecosystem, from suppliers, from the factories, from the logistics partners, and of course also from customers. And this complexity is not solved by spreadsheets or isolated data silos anymore. That is something that really needs to properly managed. And where it all comes together is sustainability. And that's why I believe that also going forward, we will see more and more heavy data-focused also sub-departments or team within corporate sustainability functions.
Yeah, and that's so powerful. And I wonder, because we're talking about sustainability, right? And sustainability is like not always just like ecological. So maybe can you define for our audience, what do you understand under sustainability? Are we talking like mostly about like footprints or ecology, environment, or is it more that you're looking at?
I would answer twofold. On the one hand, guidance is our Siemens framework. It's called Decree, which is very holistically and very broad, where you cover all aspects of sustainability. That ranges from decarbonization over biodiversity, all the societal aspects of sustainability towards, for example, also governance aspects around cybersecurity. Now, the second part of it, more specifically how that is organized in Siemens and what I am doing and what my focus is clearly more on the, I would say, what you could call perhaps narrower part. It's more the environmental part of it. So mainly climate, energy, transition, and circular economy.
Okay.
Not only we touch everything, but that I would say is the core topic my team and at least the use cases we are working on, focusing on.
Yeah, it seems to be a very fascinating area. So you swapped somehow, leading a team, AI and data for a couple of years, right? So your main challenge maybe was, keeping up with the technology on AI, because AI is blown away in terms of moving fast, right? And we had some kind of interfaces to regulatory stuff, right? In terms of our world as AI data scientists. So, but if you now emerge then yourself in the sustainability area, then, policies and, regulatory, right? Maybe fuzzy regulatory. So maybe noisy stuff comes into place also, which needs to catch up. So you're running with your data and AI team and architecture team now in this challenge of corporate sustainability that emerging regulatories come up and emerging technologies, right, is shifting along. How do you cope with this? How is sustainability facing this now?
So on on a, I would say, higher level, I would say the biggest challenge for corporate sustainability departments overall is how to really take strategic and actionable decisions in that super difficult environment that you have just described, with geopolitical uncertainties, increasing regulatory demands, diverging standards, also locally diverging standards, and of course then also fast-moving technology advancements. So I would say that's
quite some challenges.
Sorry? Quite some challenges, indeed. Quite some challenges. And you have so many balls in the air, and that's something you need to manage. And not to forget, if we are talking about sustainability, we are also moving closer and closer towards tipping points, which will also have dramatic consequences for company operations. Not to talk about now the society as a whole, but only also for company operations. And all that needs to be dealt with, and sustainability departments is in the middle of it. Now, if we go more on my department, and my team and the data challenges behind, I would say the big topic here is that with all these different aspects we have just mentioned, to take these decisions, that's why I mentioned that in the beginning, you need data. You need to be faster in decision making. And for that, you need access to data, because you need also to automate decisions, at least easy ones, using AI. But the basis for that is you need to have proper and good data. And if you look at all of these challenges, they are coming from everywhere. And that's I would say, for us now specifically as a team, the biggest challenge to create that proper data foundation that you can create a good basis for applying AI for all the different use cases, but also on the other side support and decision making in these super difficult environments and challenges and tensions you have.
And is this a realization that a lot of companies have had, that they decided to set up a team to dedicate their time to really setting up those foundations, so in the midterm or in the long term you can make those decisions better? Or is this more unique or special at Siemens?
So honestly speaking, hard to tell. And I also would not say there is a silver bullet how to deal with it. So every large company has to deal with it. If you are globally active, you need to deal with it. If you are big enough that you are falling under certain regulations, you somehow need to cope with it and to implement it. And of course, there are complete different models how you can organize it. Our way was to decide that we put that kind of specific data and AI expertise directly into sustainability to be very close to the topic. Also because that is perhaps something we will also talk about. It's also, if we're talking about AI and the fast movement of AI, it's not only about a technology advancement, but we also need to manage the transformation behind, which at the end is change management. You have people behind working with it who should also apply it. That is also something you need to do, and you need to take the people along. That is also part of what we are doing for the whole sustainability community, and that's why we decided to put that team within sustainability. Of course, other models can be completely different, where then that what we are doing is then more organized in a central way. You have either central IT teams, central AI teams who are doing that for the whole company. We decided consciously, and you see that, I guess, or in Siemens in a lot of places, that we put that expertise, and we needed expertise very close to the domain expertise of sustainability.
Yeah, that's super exciting and pretty challenging to be in that environment with so many different tensions around you. And one of them seems to be maybe regulation, which is at the heart of all of that. And there are so many frameworks like the CSRD, but then you also have all of those corporate sustainability ratings where you also have to disclose a lot and communicate a lot. And there's so many different pages that you have to interpret. There maybe even teams of consultants, maybe your old fellows supporting there that help to navigate. So do you feel like regulation is rather enabling or accelerating the industry, pushing you forward, or do you feel like it's somehow even holding you back sometimes?
So first
That's
of all,
a tough one, is it?
Yeah. Only the tough ones for Jochen.
So reporting can feel heavy, no doubt about that one. Nevertheless, I believe, and I'm convinced that frameworks like, for example, the CSRD that you have mentioned are really pushing the industry forward. And why is that? For the first time now with the CSRD, for example, we have a common baseline that creates transparency and comparability and trust for sustainability and related measures. That's why, from my perspective, if done right, regulation doesn't distract from the real work of sustainability, but rather accelerates it. And so the second aspect to it, why I think that regulation is rather an accelerator in certain aspects and right done, is that with it comes standardization. And that allows you at the end to move from voluntary commitments to credible decision-relevant management discipline, which is necessary. So now you can really compare the performance of different companies in the area of sustainability because you have a standardized framework. How to measure it, how to report it. You create a kind of a common currency. And this, I think, is a huge advancement. It's, of course, challenging, and the complexity behind to implement it is really challenging, not the regulation as such. And that is, of course, one aspect why also this team has been created, and also many sustainability functions, I guess, are really also struggling with it, because that's one of the biggest challenges. Then you need, for example, for CSRD, but also to fulfill other regulations, a lot of data, which is usually fragmented across functions. Because we talked about sustainability as a broad scope. We have a company with a very long heritage, and sustainability and CSRD was not existent while we have been founded. So we have, of course, all different functions dealing with part of aspects that now needs to brought together. All the data needs to be integrated, then also for reporting purposes. And that's, of course, a challenge. However, we're talking about AI as well. Of course, AI can make also a real difference in that regard. It can support all the efforts around data aggregation, improving data quality, measuring also data quality, and of course also automating at least parts of the reporting that is on our plates. And that helps also us to move from manual exercises, which also reporting to many aspects has been also in the past, to a more integrated ongoing processes.
Would you say that you're utilizing AI and agents in your function at a tremendous level?
Not a question is what do you mean with tremendous? So of course we're using it. And we have I would say, rather clear and structured approach, which is not a surprise. I guess everyone is doing that. We start with ideation, collecting use cases, in the sense that, hey, what's the idea? What kind of problem you want to solve? Describe it. What's the value proposition behind? Make a first, let's say, technical feasibility assessment, super high level. What's the effort behind? Then you have a matrix of impact and effort. And then we start piloting the first. So why we're doing that? The first one is we want to build up that funnel rather broad. Then we also want to combine use cases, because we have also, to be honest, especially if it's coming to productivity or efficiency in reporting, a lot of people have very similar ideas. And then you can rather easily bundle them, and then you start first pilot them, do technical assessments, feasibility. First you need to check if the AI, for example, if you apply AI, is really doing what it should do, if it's work, if it meets the quality standards, and then of course moved it forward. And of course we're working on that, and to different levels. The one aspect is, of course, just providing tools and platforms for everyone to use that and integrate it in the day-to-day work, what we would call everyday AI. And then on the other side, let's say more bigger use cases that then really automate tasks that goes in the direction of agentic AI, really, where you then also take over decisions, which is then also stronger and deeper integrated in already existing solutions and workflows.
How do you tackle the challenge of like that fragmented data that sits everywhere in the organization? There's like a lot of like legacy data, maybe just laying somewhere. How do you address that? Do you have like a piece of advice or a view on that? I guess like that's a challenge a lot of companies will have.
First answer and approach is, again, use case based. So I believe, and that's the approach that we are following, and it's not only us. We have within Siemens for the whole management of our data, we are following a data mesh approach. And at the end, it always starts with the use case. So you have a demand. Someone wants to achieve something for whatever reason. And for this purpose, the use case owner needs some data. And this is the first thing what we collect and what we try to streamline, similar to what we discussed about AI, to first find out which data is needed and trying also to prioritize to some extent the data need. Because you can't do everything at once, because it's just the sheer amount of data that is needed is too much. So you need to somehow find what needs to come first and what you do second. And then if you have that data demand, then within the data mesh system, we have a clear process, how then to address this data demand that is then funneled to the so-called data domains, and then they are the supporting function to organize and then create at the end the data products. And then, of course, the challenge starts, because sometimes, and luckily, it's not that bad, I would say in the majority of the cases, the data is just there. So it's somewhere in the systems. Sometimes it's already existing as a data product and rather easy to consume. You might have a challenge integrating data from different systems, because sometimes in certain columns, they have the same title in the column, but in fact they are used differently. That is then something you need to find out.
That's where it gets fun.
Exactly, that's then where the data engineers have a lot of fun. That is then something you need to find out and sort out, where it's getting really tricky if you either find out that your data is so different across the systems. You do not have just that column problem and you have the 2 or 3 times. But for example, you have a weight is a nice example, a weight of a part or of a material that is usually currently managed very decentralized, because it's a data point that has not been used or has not been required that it is centrally managed, because it was mainly used within the PLM process. Now we need this kind of information centrally. And now you have all the bits and pieces in all the different systems where this data is maintained and it's following different processes. And that is the one angle where it's getting super difficult, because it's just getting massive in a company like Siemens to streamline and organize all of these different stakeholders. The second aspect is if data is just still not available and you need to somehow collect that. For example, we are suppliers. To get transparency in the value chain, we still have a lot of data needs where we need to work together with our suppliers to get this data into our databases.
Earlier, you mentioned that an important part of your work is also change management. And I think one aspect that ties in nicely with change management is always the aspect around communication. And I think at Siemens, but not only at Siemens, in the business world, we tend to use a lot of abbreviations and some jargon. So should we do some jargon busting? We thought it might be a fun game. I don't know, we try to be creative, always reinventing ourselves. One abbreviation I came across is PCF, Product Carbon Footprint. Jochen, can you help us? What does it mean? How do you use it?
You're asking not a non-sustainability expert about a sustainability term. No, but happy to help. And
thank you.
I guess it's really a good example to also illustrate somehow certain challenges that we have in sustainability, and why I think it's also so fascinating in working on data in an AI in sustainability. So the first thing is, and that we have talked about that already during the regulations part, is if you want to manage something, you need to measure it. And now, if it comes to sustainability, we are talking about concepts like emissions. Product carbon footprint addresses emissions, or for example, biodiversity. But that is not obvious how to measure it. It's not as simple as a weight, where you just put something on a weigh and then you have it. And now the product carbon footprint, or PCF, is the total CO2 emissions associated with a product across its entire life cycle. That is the idea of a product carbon footprint. So first of all, it's a theoretical construct, and now you need to think about how can we really measure it.
And there is a lot of gas needs to be in there.
So what that means, at the end is that you have a kind of, you can imagine it like a backpack. So you buy a product, and that comes with a backpack with all the CO2 emissions that this product carries until you bought it, and then it also fills up until during your use phase, and until then you are done using it. That's the idea from the concept. And what you need for it is you need to incorporate all the emissions from the materials that went into it, that you need to produce it. You need to put in all the emissions during the manufacturing process. You need to put all the emissions that are created during use of the product, and then until end of life. And you said it, the first thing is you need a lot of data. Because you have multiple products, raw materials that you use, and all of them are coming with a kind of a footprint. You need a lot of assumptions about, for example, what's the average use of life and something like that. If you want then to quantify it, you need to have assumptions. And you then need to somehow calculate it. And the challenge with that one is now not only about getting the data, but you also, back to standardization, you need standards for that. Because you can only compare a product carbon footprint of product A with a product carbon footprint of product B if they are following the same methodology behind how to calculate it. And that's one of the key challenges with all these metrics in sustainability, that also this is an evolving field because it's so new. So you don't have only one standard for PCF, you have different standards in the marketplace for different industries. You have heard perhaps Catena X is one of them for automotive industries, and others are emerging. Sometimes you can then also do some math to translate them because you know how they are calculated. But that's one of the challenges that comes with all of these aspects of concepts. However, now coming to the good side, why that is also so important. If you have then a standardized product footprint and you have something like an industry standard, for example, then you get transparency. Then you can measure the emissions of a product, and you can take that into account in your decisions. Be it already in a design phase, you can then optimize a product in designing it towards the product footprint to minimize it. And just as an example, 80% of the product footprint is defined already in the design phase. That's where at the end the magic lies. Or if you have product footprints, you can then also depend purchasing decisions on that. You can do strategic procurement, taking sustainability measures into account. You can add up that, and then you can come to a company carbon footprint, and then measure your decarbonization strategy and all of that. And for all of these aspects to really manage it, and that's what we said earlier, what is so important to bring it into the sustainability in the core business operations. The whole standardization topic and the underlying data topic, that's why it's so important.
Here's another tension actually that keeps me up at night, right? AI infrastructure. Everybody talks about AI factories nowadays, right? Ecosystems around it, data center, compute, right? GPUs, the hell of it. And, and therefore, as data centers emerge to a bit more broader perspective at the so core of, let's say, the intelligence layer of AI along the line, leveraging data, right? Places like Data Center Alley, like in Virginia, right, houses 50% of all US data centers, putting enormous strain on, local power grids, water supplies. So how do we square that with our net zero goals? Is this a contradiction, or is there actually something that to resolve? It's a bit of a tough thing, right?
It is, because no doubt, AI infrastructure has a growing environmental footprint, and that will continue. And the growth of the environmental footprint of data and AI centers is huge. And they are growing faster than every other sector. just to put it into perspective, we also need to be clear that there are other sectors who have a by far larger footprint. And that's also then where we're coming to the, is it a contradiction that we can resolve? Looking into industry or in the whole transportation sector, the footprint of that sector is X-fold high as data centers, even with the projections then in 2030 or so. And of course, the second aspect, because you also said it rightfully so, we cannot only focus on energy consumption. If you're talking about the footprint of AI, we also need to consider water and land use, because also these gigafactories, they are huge. However, I personally believe, and I'm convinced it's really not an unsolvable contradiction. Why is that? AI is, from my perspective, and I'm not the only one who believes in that, the key technology to master our sustainability transformation. And on the same hand, we need to manage the AI footprint thoroughly. So we need to do both. We need to manage both. We need to make sure that we use AI to really create real-world impact, and AI is the key lever for that. And on the other side, of course, we need to make sure that we manage the AI's environmental footprint thoroughly. And just to give you a little bit of flavor for already some good news, if we're talking about the energy efficiency of data centers, they have become already in the last decade around 10 times more energy efficient.
Wow.
And one of the levers behind is AI. Because AI supports to design new chips that are much more energy optimized and much more energy efficient. That's going back to the 80% where also your carbon footprint emerges. And you, of course, can also apply AI to optimize energy and water consumption or the cooling system. Cooling is usually the most energy intense part in data centers. And that is now looking at Siemens, especially something where we also support our clients and customers in their sustainability transformation. So because just to provide you a concrete example, from a data center in Tallinn, in Estonia, from a customer that we support alone. So that facility runs completely with renewable energy. And we use AI-supported Siemens technology to optimize the cooling. And in a energy efficiency gain, what they have achieved in a very short time frame was around 30%.
Wow, that's impressive.
That's why we have already the real-world examples where we can show that AI is really a key lever to support the sustainability transformation, to drive the energy transition, but also circular economy. Waste reduction is another one, for example. But it needs to be clear. On the other hand, we need to manage also thoroughly the footprint of AI, which, by the way, of course, within Siemens, we are doing. We have clear policies around that. So we are addressing this by, for example, our ambition to power our whole AI infrastructure, as all operations, by the way, with renewable energy. And that is then also in line with our net zero targets you have mentioned earlier.
And what you did here is also like flipping the coin or putting it a little bit into perspective, right? When we hear about the tremendous energy consumption of AI, it's like that's very prevalent, but then to like compare it to different industries, that helps. Or also maybe looking at that trajectory, how now data centers are becoming more and more efficient over the next years, and also how we're using different tools at Siemens to maybe like impact the design at an early stage. And I think all of these examples that you mentioned, converge towards the opposite of the footprint. And you call it the handprint. Do you maybe want to just like briefly elaborate? I mean, you shared a lot of examples that revolved around that. So what is the handprint? How does it compare to the footprint? And why does it matter?
As we just discussed, for me, it's the always different side of the same coin. So AI has a great potential, and even more we see already. I mentioned the example of the data center. Could provide another example in a second. We see already real-world impact by AI on also fulfilling sustainability targets. And that's why I believe we won't be able to manage the whole complexity that we have discussed about it without AI. That's the key lever to master that challenge. On the other hand, AI comes with a price and with some cost. We talked about that, and that also needs to manage. So for me, and that is, of course, one challenge, also for sustainability departments, is that this balance between the positive impact, the handprint, and the cost of AI, the footprint, that balance doesn't happen automatically, but we need to manage it. It needs to be designed. And that is, on the one hand, addressing then proper management of the AI footprint, driving energy efficiency in the data centers, going towards renewables and the like. And on the other hand, also working towards and steer AI towards high impact real world outcomes. And that's why I also think that use case approach is so important. You are not just scaling AI because of the purpose of AI and applying AI. We want to drive change. We want to positively influence the sustainability transformation also of our customers. And AI is a great means to that. But we also need to steer the application of AI towards these high impact and real world outcomes. And just another concrete example, because we talked about the design phase, because I think that's quite impressive. Earlier I said roughly 80% of the footprint is already defined in the design phase. Using AI in the design phase and digital twin technology helped us, Siemens, to design and then at the end also build a robot gripper that was usually or beforehand a metal robot gripper weighing around about 50 kilos. And now the new robot gripper is a polymer with only 2 kilos.
Wow.
And with that you have all the chain of impacts, because you have a huge reduction of energy that is needed, because it's a difference if you need to move the whole day a 50 kilo robot gripper or only a 2 kilo robot gripper. A huge reduction of material that is used to produce it. And then you have a huge saving in emissions, because less energy, less waste, less material, and you have even increased the cycle time. That's why usually you have these cascade effects. If you already tweak in one angle, then you have usually a lot of chain reactions and positive impacts. And this complexity, also to model this complexity, because now in the design process, you have always optimized for features, quality, price. Now you have additional aspects like circularity, recyclability, product carbon footprint, whatever it might be. For example, might be also material scarcity. And this multifold complexity is best handled by AI, because that is where AI is designed for, to solve these kind of problems.
Pretty cool, pretty surprising aspects. But speaking on surprising aspects, right, is also, I think that, you know, in the environment you are navigating, it comes with great and sometimes very surprising, genuine innovations along the line, right, and topics along the line, whether you be it sustainability or economics, be it technology like AI and agentics, right? Is there any topics where you say like, hey, this is where you need to put a bit of a magnifying glass, or certain kinds of trends you already get a glimpse of, like, hey, this is pretty dope, this is pretty cool, or this is pretty relevant to look into?
Might be that you are disappointed by my answer, because I would like to twist it a bit.
Never been. Have we ever been disappointed? No.
I would like to twist it a bit, because for me the topic that is still underestimated or needs more attention is the whole data topic. Because all of that, what we talked about, and the great real world impact use cases only work if you have a proper database. And that is not only true for regulation, that is for all the business models. And we are talking here about industrial AI applications. There is no failure. You need industrial grade solutions that needs to be built up. And you need then also the proper basis for it. And I guess that's at least my experience and impression, that we still underestimate looking at the pace of AI and how that develops and what is technically possible, to focus enough and put enough attention and sometimes perhaps also patience in how long and what kind of effort it takes to build that data foundation. And this is not only about collecting the data, integrating the data, it's also about evolving standards, building trust in all these kind of systems and all these different standards that are evolving, because you said everything is still rather fluid. The regulatory landscape is still further developing. You have all the ecosystem plays that are developing with mentioned Catena X and all of these topics. And you have so huge ecosystems to maneuver in that will just take time. And that's, from my perspective, one clearly still underestimated aspect in it.
And very important, and not disappointing at all, but rather very valid. Because if you don't, without a foundation, it's hard to build anything on top. And maybe what you just mentioned also like perfectly leads to our final question. So we have a lot of people in the audience who might be living in these tensions every single day. They want to move fast and they want to do the right thing, but the space keeps shifting, and you mentioned those multiple challenges. So if there was one assumption that you could change in their heads, what would that be? Is there like an underlying assumption that you want to like use this opportunity in this podcast to change their minds on before you leave?
What comes to my mind first is, I guess we have all the reasons also to be more optimistic and bolder. Especially if I look also to the situation discussion around AI, especially in Europe and Germany, compared to China and the US. So if I just look at Siemens, I really believe that we have a very unique position that will lead us and allow us to be a leader in industrial AI space. Why is that? So the first thing is we have a unique domain expertise in industry. And I guess that is still one of the really strong footholds, not only within Siemens, but for the whole domain in all over Germany and Europe. The second is we have very trusted relationships with our partners, customers, and suppliers we can build upon, which is also absolutely necessary if you also look and follow all the discussions about especially agentic AI systems and all also the pitfalls that are and risks that are associated with them. So you need trusted environments for industrial AI create solutions. And last but not least, we have a huge installed base. And this is also a core basis to at the end scale and be successful. That's why from my perspective here we have really a unique position, and now integrating sustainability into that as we have seen what we are doing already with all of these examples in our core business operations. I'm really convinced that we have a very strong position and the ability to master these tensions successfully.
We like some optimism towards the end
after having
spoken so much about all the challenges. So thank you for that. And maybe what you need next is also some optimism. And for the final challenge, we don't let our guests leave before playing a little game, Authentic Autocomplete it's called, and we are going to throw you some sentence starters, and we just need the very first thing that comes into your mind. You don't need to think too much. We just want your pure authenticity. So Jochen, are you ready for this final challenge?
Of course I am.
Yeah, okay, let me start. Technology with purpose is
the only technology we should pursue.
There we go. Siemens is
supporting the sustainability transformation of our customers where it really matters, and on top, a great company to belong to.
There you go.
Hell yeah. The moment I knew data and sustainability had to go together was?
Now looking at you, Uli.
I know exactly the moment.
Yeah, it was in fact during a project back then. We have been in the same
when
department.
you met Uli.
No.
I met Uli even before, but we worked together back then, and that was a project dealing with data governance and management in Siemens overall.
Okay.
And here I really started then also to understand the breadth and also the complexity of sustainability data and the related challenges, and I became quite fascinated and enthusiastic about, because if it would be simple, it wouldn't be fun.
Yeah,
that's the right attitude.
When I'm not thinking about data pipelines and carbon footprints, you'll find me
either on my bike. We talked about that before we started the podcast, or enjoying time with my family.
That sounds good. And last but not least, pretty challenging one, but you love challenges, so perfect for you. If I could invent one rule for everyone in the world to follow, it would be?
I would go back to the golden rule of reciprocity, if you know that one. So it's do not act and live in a way that you would find unacceptable now or if you were born into the future.
All right, that's deep.
Yeah.
That goes. Let's rewind this once again. Right, pretty cool. Hey, Jochen, thanks so much for being that open, honest, genius, and sharing a bit about your insights and thinking. This is exactly the kind of conversation why this show exists and for. And folks out there, stay tuned, bold, committed, and open-minded. You know it. Next Siemens AI podcast will follow soon. Cheers, mate.